Today I'm introducing you to the Vdebug plugin for Vim. It's an Xdebug client for Vim. You can use it with other languages besides PHP, but we're going to be talking about PHP and specifically Drupal. It's just like most Vim plugins, it's pretty easy to install. Once you have it installed, if you don't already have this Chrome plugin, you'll want to get Xdebug helper for Chrome, and that just simply makes it easier for you to listen for connections and make your connection between your browser and your editor. So once you have these items installed, you can go over to Vim. So I have a session already open here, and quickly I'll just go through the different components in Vdebug. So when Vdebug runs, it actually creates a new tab in Vim and gives you 4 new splits. In your left side here, this is the source window. The top right is your watch window, and that simply gives you information about the current variables in the file that you currently have open in your source window, and you can dive through those and check those out and inspect those. Then below that we have the stack window, which gives you the history of everywhere your application, every line of your application that's ran to this point. At the bottom we have the debugger status. And this tells us if we're currently at a breakpoint, what port we're listening on, what our IDE key is set in Xdebug, as well as the IP address we're connecting to. And so when we quit this connection by hitting Q, you can see it'll update and it'll show that we're stopped. Let's go ahead and close out Vdebug by hitting Q, and that will just destroy the tab that I had open and bring me back to where I started. Once you have Vdebug installed and your Xdebug on your server configured properly, the first thing you'll want to do is set a breakpoint in your application. In this example, I'm going to set a breakpoint in the middle of this form alter that I've written here. There are a few ways to create breakpoints. One simple method is to type :breakpoint. That will create a breakpoint. Another way to configure your settings is to set them in your vimrc file. I have set my breakpoint to be leader S. So I can type leader S and I can toggle breakpoints very easily. Now that we have a breakpoint set, let's go to Chrome and get to debugging. The first thing we want to do is to make sure that Chrome is setting the correct parameter and sending that out to Vdebug. So with the Chrome program, this is really easy just by toggling disable to turn it off, or turning it on by clicking debug. So now that we have that turned on, let's go back to Vim. We have our breakpoint set. So now we want to enable Vdebug. So we can type Vdebug start, and that will start the debugger. And now we can see that it's listening, it's waiting for a connection. Now I can go back to Chrome, hit refresh, and now we see the Vdebug interface again. Now we're at the first line of the Drupal application, and we can do several things here. We can step over the first line into the second line, and you notice that in the right hand column there, the watch window, we've updated variables are showing there. We can actually step into a function, and then we can step out of the function. The most useful command though is to run to cursor, and I've set that up to be down arrow. Now that takes me to where I set my breakpoint or wherever my cursor happened to be. Now I can investigate this function, look at the variables, and do all the work I need to do. In the watch window, we're currently looking at the locals, which are just the variables in the current function that we're at. But you can also look at super globals, which gives you information about cookies, your environment, server, and other variables. You can also look at user-defined constants, which gives me things like the Drupal console constants as well as minimum PHP version. All these are very useful. Now I can step through my function and see is the content in my split over here, my debugger watch updates. Another useful thing I can do is select a variable in visual mode, such as roles, and I can evaluate that variable or a function. And I see something interesting here. I've got authenticated role as well as 2 administrator roles. Now, that's something I probably should investigate. So as you can see, it's very easy to get around. If you're familiar with Vim, I highly recommend that you check out the Vdebug plugin. And I highly recommend, if you don't use Vim, that you use a debugger. It's going to help you understand Drupal 8 and help make your work a lot easier. Thanks for watching.